Hello everyone again, this is Professor Capko, and today we're going to do some more friggin' fractions. This is actually a request from a student as to how to add and subtract fractions. So I want to talk a little bit about that and how to add and subtract fractions, and we're going to do that together. So let's say first of all that you've got fractions that look like this. And you're asked to add them. Well, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, the key is you must have a common denominator. The denominator is the number on the bottom here in the basement. The numerator is the one that's on top. So we have to have a common denominator. In this case, they're both 11. So we have a common denominator. So all we do is we bring the common denominator over and we add the numbers on top. 3 plus 5 is 8. 8/11. So that is how you would add them if you had a common denominator. Let's say we're going to subtract. Well, if you can subtract, you also need a common denominator. Say we have 3/4 minus 2/4. Again, we have a common denominator, so all we're going to do is subtract what's on top. The denominator stays the same. So I've got 3 minus 2 is 1. So 3/4 minus 2/4 is equal to 1/4. So far so good? Alright, so we've got the common denominators, but what happens if they're not common? Let's see what happens if we don't have common denominators. Let's say we've got fractions that look like this. 2/5 plus 2/10. We don't have a common denominator. So what's the step? We need to find a common denominator. Well, the best way to do that is I line them up this way. 2/5, 2/10. If you notice, this one has a common numerator, but that doesn't matter. So now we're going to look at the denominators, and I see 10 and I see 5. And I know that 5 goes into 10. I can turn a 5 into a 10. So I think 10 would be an excellent common denominator. So we're going to work over here, and I know we want to wind up with a 10 as our common denominator because 5 is a factor of 10. So we don't have to do anything to this one on the bottom. 2/10 has already got a denominator of 10, so I just bring the 2 over. I look at this one now, and I say to myself, what do I need to multiply 5 by to make a 10? That's right, 2. So I've got to multiply 5 by 2. 2 times 5 is 10. But I can't just do it to the bottom, because if I do that, then I get everything out of whack. But what we know is we can always multiply by 1. Anytime you multiply by 1, it's the same. 100 times 1 is 100. 5,000 times 1 is 5,000. So anytime we multiply by 1, we're left with the same number. It may not look quite the same, but it is. So if I have 2/2, then 2/2 is 1, because 2 halves is 1. So in this case, I'm multiplying by 1, the whole fraction by 1, so I'm not actually changing the fraction. So 2 times 2 is 4. So now I've got a new problem all over 10. I've got 4 plus 2 over 10, because here's my 4, and here's my 2. 4 plus 2 over 10 is 6/10. We can reduce that because 2 goes into 6 3 times, 2 goes into 10 5 times. So the final answer here, the reduced fraction, is 3/5. And I'll do another video later on exactly how to reduce fractions, because we want to get into that a little bit more. But that's how we find a common denominator. Let's do one more where we need to find a common denominator. By the way, you would do the same thing if you were subtracting. Find that common denominator. Let's do one more where maybe the denominator is not so easy to find. let's say I have something like this. 2/3 plus 1/2. Okay, and again I use easy numbers just so you can see how the process works. Well, 3 is not a factor of 2 and 2 is not a factor of 3. So it's a little bit more tricky to find that. So again, I recommend you write them vertically, 2/3, 1/2, and you look at them and you say, well, one is not a factor of the other, and I'm looking for this common denominator. So when we have that situation, we go with what I call the nuclear option. The nuclear option is to multiply this denominator by that denominator, and that denominator by that denominator. So the 2 we're going to multiply by 3, and the 3 we're going to multiply by 2. And see what we wind up with. And again, because we can only multiply by 1 without changing the actual fraction, this is going to be 3/3, and this is going to be 2/2. And so I wind up with 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Again, I got the common denominator. 2 times 2 is 4. So I have a new fraction, 4 plus 3 over 6, because we have a common denominator now. 4 plus 3 is 7/6. And that's how we multiply those. Add those. So we find the common denominator, we multiply them out using the nuclear option, and that gives us an automatic common denominator. Anytime you're not sure, just do that, and it'll get you that common denominator. Alright, if you have more questions, just go ahead and post it in the comments section. If you like this video, just go ahead and click like. And remember, Professor Capko says, keep your grade alive and subscribe. Until next time, this is Professor Capko.